Okay, you joined at good times though, because we're just starting chapter 2. This is the best chapter in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, as far as I'm concerned. They got the most nectar verses from 17, text 17 to like 22, or what the great souls like, what's his name? Visheshika. He always, at the beginning of a class, he'll always read those as part of his Mangalacharna invocation prayers before each class. Sometimes they'll go on and they'll just say, like, well, someday we'll get into the class, but as for now, he really likes to like preface everything with with these particular verses from Divinity and Divine Service. Okay, so chapter 1 or chapter 2, text 1. I'll read the Sanskrit and synonyms and translation, and you guys can take turns reading the purports, paragraphs of the purports. Okay, so text 1. Vyasavacha iti sampristo vipranam ramharshanai pratipujya vajastesam pravaktum apachakrame. Synonyms. Vyasavacha, Vyas said, iti thus, samprashna, perfect inquiries, samhrista, perfectly satisfied, vipranam, of the sages there, Romaharshini, the son of Romaharshina, namely Ugrashrava, Pratipuja, after thanking them, vacha, words, tesham, there, pravaktum, to reply to them, upachakrame, attempted. Alan, you can read the translation, the purport, since it's only like 2 sentences here.
How do you pronounce that name?
Ugrashrava.
Siddha Goswami, the son of Ramaharshana, being fully satisfied by the perfect questions of the Brahmanas, thanked them and thus attempted to reply. In the purports, the sages of the Naimisharana asked Siddha Goswami 6 questions, and he is answering them one by one.
Text 2. Sutta vacha yam prajat jantam anupetam apeta krityam daivapayana viraha kahata ujavahava putre titan mayataya sarvara bednidus tam sarvabhuta hridayam muni anantosmi. Synonyms. Sutta Goswami Avacha said, yam, whom prajvajantam, while going away for the renounced order of life, anupetam, without being reformed by the sacred thread, apeta, not undergoing ceremonies, krityam, performed or prescribed duties, dvaipayana, vyasadeva, viraha, separation, katara, being afraid of, ujavaha, exclaimed, putriti, O my son, tat mayataya, being absorbed in that way, tarava, all the trees, abhinedu, responded tam, unto him, sarva, all, muta, living entities, hridayam, heart, muni, the sage, anantasmi, offer obeisances. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto that great sage, Shukadeva Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyas, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher castes, his father, Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, quote, O my son, end quote. Indeed, only the trees, which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation, echoed in response to the begrieved father. So go ahead, read the first paragraph.
Okay. The institution of Varna and Ashrama prescribes many regulative duties to be observed by its followers. Such duties enjoin that a candidate willing to study the Vedas must approach a bona fide spiritual master and request acceptance as his disciple. The sacred thread is the sign of those who are competent to study the Vedas from the Acharya or the
Acharya.
Acharya or the bona fide spiritual master. Sri Sukadeva Goswami did not undergo such purificatory ceremonies because he was a liberated soul from his very birth.
Generally, a man is born as an ordinary being, and by the purification processes, he is born for the second time. When he sees a new light and seeks direction for spiritual progress, he approaches a spiritual master for instruction in the Vedas. The spiritual master accepts only the sincere inquirer as his disciple and gives him the sacred thread. In this way, a man becomes twice born, or a, how do you pronounce that?
Dvija.
Divija. After qualifying as a Divija, one must study the Vedas after becoming well versed in the Vedas. One becomes a
Vipra.
Vipra, and a Vipra or a qualified Brahma thus realizes the absolute and makes further progress in spiritual life until he reaches the Vaishnava stage. The Vaishnava stage is the postgraduate status of the Brahmana. A progressive Brahmana must necessarily become a Vaishnava, for a Vaishnava is a self-realized learned Brahmana.
Go ahead, Zoe.
Okay. Srila Sukadevita Goswami was a Vaishnava. Is that right?
That's how you pronounce it, Vaishnava.
Vaishnava from the beginning. Therefore, there was no need for him to undergo all the processes of the Varnashrama institution. Ultimately, the aim of Varnashrama Dharma is to turn a crude man into a pure devotee of the Lord, or a Vaishnava. Yeah. Anyone, therefore, who becomes a Vaishnava, is that right? Vaishnava,
Vaishnava, yeah.
Vaishnava, accepted by the first class Vaishnava, or Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava, is already considered a Brahmana, regardless of his birth or past deeds. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted this principle and recognized Srila Haridasa Thakura as the Acharya. Is that how you say it again?
Acharya. C is pronounced CH.
Okay, Acharya of the holy name, although Thakura Haridasa appeared in the Muhammadan family. In conclusion, Srila Sukadeva Goswami was born a Vaishnava, and therefore Brahmanism was included in him. He did not have to undergo any ceremonies. Any lower born person, be he a Karata, Huna, Andara, Pulinda, Pulkasa, Abhira, Shumbaha, Yavana, Kasa, or even lower, can be delivered to the highest transcendental position by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Srila, sorry, I know I'm probably not saying it very well. Srila Sukadeva Goswami was the spiritual master of Sri Sutra Goswami, who therefore offers his respectful obeisances unto Srila Sukadeva Goswami before he begins his answers to the questions of the sages at Naimisharanya.
You did very well. All those
that's rough.
low-born people, Karata, Huna, Andhra, Palinda, that was very good pronunciation of all
that
those.
Was a lot, Alan.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. That's easy for you to say. Anyway, text 3. Yasvanu Bhavam Akila Shruti Saramekam Adhyatma Deepam Aditir Satam Tamo Nirdam Samsaranam Karunayaya Yaha Pranaguyam Tam Vyasasunam Apiyami Guru Muninam. Synonyms. Yeah, he who sva anubhavam, self-assimilated, experienced Akila all around, Shruti, the Vedas, Sharam, cream, Ekam, the only one, Adhyatma, transcendental, Dipam, torchlight, Atitirsatam, desiring to overcome, Tama Andam, deeply dark material existence, Samsarinam, of the materialistic man, Karunaya, out of causeless mercy, Aha, said, Purana, supplement of the Vedas, Guyam, very confidential, Tam unto him, Vyasashunam, the son of Vyasadeva, Upayami, let me offer my obeisances, Gurum, the spiritual master, Muninam, of the great sage. Translation, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Shuka, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience. See, Shukadeva Goswami was only 16 years old at this time. You have to remember, he was the most qualified sages of all of them. Go ahead, Al.
In this prayer, Srila Gosuda Goswami practically summarized the complete introduction of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the natural supplementary commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutras, or the Brahma Sutras, were compiled by Vasudeva with a view to presenting just the cream of Vedic knowledge. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the natural commentary on this cream. Srila Sukadeva Goswami was a thoroughly realized master of the Vedanta Sutra, and consequently, he also personally realized the commentary Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and just to show his boundless mercy upon bewildered materialistic men who want to cross completely over nuisance, he recited for the first time this confidential knowledge.
Okay, go ahead. So,
Okay. There is no point in arguing that a materialistic man can be happy. No materialistic creature, be he the great Brahma or an insignificant ant, can be happy. Everyone tries to make a permanent plan for happiness, but everyone is baffled by the laws of material nature. Therefore, the materialistic world is called the darkest region of God's creation. It's interesting. Yet the unhappy materialists can get out of it simply by desiring to get out. Unfortunately, they are so foolish that they do not want to escape. Therefore, they are compared to the camel who relishes thorny twigs because he likes the taste of the twigs mixed with blood. He does not realize that it is his own blood and that his tongue is being cut by the thorns. Similarly to the materialist, his own blood is as sweet as honey. Oh, nice analogies here. And although he is always harassed by his own material creations, he does not wish to escape. Such materialists are called karmis. Karmis is right, how you say it?
yep, karmis.
Out of hundreds of thousands of karmis, I know some karmis. Only a few may feel tired of material engagement and a desire to get out of the labyrinth. Such intelligent persons are called jnanis.
Yeah, Gyanis, you pronounce it with
Gyanis. The Vedanta Sutra is directed to such Gyanis, but Srila Vyasadeva, being the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, could foresee the misuse of the Vedanta Sutra by unscrupulous men, and therefore he personally supplemented the Vedanta Sutra with the Bhagavatam Purana. It is clearly said that the Bhagavatam is the original commentary on the Brahma Sutras. Srila Vyasadeva also instructed the Bhagavatam to his own son, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, who was already at the liberated stage of transcendence. Srila Sukadeva realized it personally and then explained it. By the mercy of Srila Sukadeva, the Bhagavata Vedanta Sutra is available for all those sincere souls who want to get out of material existence.
Go ahead, Alan, you can read the second one, the last one.
The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is one unrivaled commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Sripada
Shankaracharya.
Sankaracharya and intentionally did not touch it because he knew that the natural commentary would be difficult for him to surpass. He wrote his
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and he so-called followers deprecated the Bhagavatam as some new presentation. One should not be misled by such propaganda directed against the Bhagavatam by the Mahadevata Veda school. From the introductory sloka, the beginning student should know that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the only transcendental literature meant for those who are
Paramahansas
and completely freed from the material disease called malice. The Mayavadis are infamous of the personality of the Godhead, despite Sripada Sankaracharya admissions the Narayana. The personality of Godhead is above the material creation. The envious Mayavadi cannot have access to the Bhagavatam, but those who are really anxious to get out of the material existence may take shelter of this Bhagavatam because it is uttered by the liberated Srila Sukadeva Goswami. It is the transcendental torchlight by which one can see perfectly the transcendental absolute truth realized as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan.
Yeah, we say this prayer that's like usually the first prayer before we even say anything else in the invocation to every class in the morning. It goes, it's kind of related to this. It's like the torchlight. It says, Om Gyan Timanandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshur Manitamyena Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha. Om is an address. Agyan means ignorance. Timara, by the darkness, like I was talking about, Zoe was talking about the darkness. You thought that was interesting. Yeah, it's like really we're in dense darkness in this material world. One who is blinded by the dense darkness, Gyananjana, the ointment of spiritual knowledge, Shalakya, by a medical instrument called a Shalaka, which is used to apply medical ointment to eyes afflicted with cataracts. Chakshu, eyes, militum were opened, Yena, by whom, Tasmai, unto him, Sri Guruve, unto my spiritual master, Namaha, obeisances. And the translation is, I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with a torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So out of compassion, spiritual masters like Shukadeva Goswami are presenting this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam to open the eyes of the conditioned souls who are like owls. They refuse to open their eyes. And so you have to convince them, but it's very difficult because Prabhupada said this is the owl civilization. The owl, even in the bright sunlight, it will not open its eyes. And so you say, Mr. Owl, please open your eyes. No, there's no sun. They refuse to see it, So you kind of have to fight with the owl civilization that we're in right now. And that's why we have all this, ammunition to fight against the owl civilization. We have to forcibly open their eyes because it's very difficult to awaken somebody who's pretending to sleep. And that's what most people are. They're just pretending to be in ignorance. They don't see. They're just too busy enjoying this material world as it is. And they pretend that they don't see that there's a sun, but they know there is. They're just ignoring it. They're just closing their eyes and they refuse to see it because they don't want to give up their independence. They want to be the supreme enjoyer and they don't want to recognize anybody else besides themselves as a supreme enjoyer. And that's the disease of the conditioned soul in the material world. Text 4. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devam shashvatim vyasam tato jayam nidiyarayat. Synonyms: Narayanam, the personality of Godhead, namakritya, after offering respectful obeisances, naram chaiva, and Narayan Rishi, Nara Uttamam, the supermost human being, Devim, the goddess, Saraswatim, the mistress of learning, Vyasadev, Tata thereafter, Ganam or Jayam, that all that is meant for conquering, Udaryat, to be announced. Translation. Before reciting the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. I think it's your turn, right, Zoe? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm slow with these buttons. Okay. All the Vedic literatures and the Puranas are meant for conquering the darkest region of material existence. The living being is in the state of forgetfulness of his relation with God due to his being overly attracted to material sense gratification from time immemorial. His struggle for existence in the material world is perpetual, and it is not possible for him to get out of it by making plans. I'm sorry, this is very relatable. And I was gonna say something. I'll read this, but I'll say that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can say it after you read
Yeah,
it.
sorry. If he at all wants to conquer this personal struggle for existence, he must reestablish his external relation with God. And one who wants to adopt such remedial measures must take shelter of literature such as the Vedas and Puranas. Foolish people say that the Puranas have no connection with the Vedas. However, the Puranas are supplementary explanations of the Vedas intended for different types of men. All men are not equal. There are men who are conducted by the mode of goodness, others who are under the mode of passion, and others are under the mode of ignorance. The Puranas are so divided that any class of men can take advantage of them and gradually regain their lost position and get out of the hard struggle for existence. Srila Sutta Goswami shows the way of chanting the Puranas. This may be followed by persons who aspire to be preachers of the Vedic literatures and the Puranas. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the spotless Purana, and it is essentially meant for them who desire to get out of the material entanglement permanently.
So what are you going to say?
Well, I mean, every time we say material, I think in my head, I'm always making this unconscious association of like the haves and the have-nots and rich poor. But I'm kind of trying to, in my own way, because I'm kind of struggling with this. Not like I'm not not letting go of all my wealth and materialistic pleasures, but for me, it's like a matter of being inundated with a lot of, let's just say, responsibilities of the world. You know, there's the things that work makes demands of you. There's the things that you have to do for your children or your family, and it's like it's just so those are material things because they're of the world, right? So if it's
Well, not exactly. I mean, if you're doing it, it depends on what your intention is. If you're doing all these things for your own sense gratification, for your own material pleasure, for your own like extended bodily existence in the form of your family or society or anything, then it is sense gratification, it is material, but utilities is a principle. So if you're doing these things for the sake of Krishna, you can use everything. Krishna says, all you do, all that you eat, all that you offer, give away, as well as all austerities you perform. It's indeed an austerity to maintain your family. But if you're doing it for Krishna, then it becomes transcendental. Then it becomes no longer material. It becomes spiritualized. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, you know, he was a family man. He had a big family. He was a big government agent or government, judge in Bengal or in Orissa. And he said, I'm just a servant of my family. I'm just like a household dog outside of the door of my house. And I'm a servant of my family. My family is a servant of Krishna, and I'm just like a dog sitting outside the door, protecting the family and protecting the property. And so he put himself in that lowly position. But actually, when you think of your family and your house and and everything that's related to your material duties in relation to Krishna, that's part of your duty, and you do your duty as a sacrifice for Krishna. And that way, when it's meant for his pleasure, then offered to him as a like everything that you do is an offering, even washing the dishes, even cleaning the house or whatever. that becomes a spiritual transcendental activity, and it's no longer a grind. It's no longer
I'm gonna have to
a chore.
consciously somehow put that in my head.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah. I mean, well, it
work
just
is
depends on, see, what
so-
it is, how you do that. This is how you do it.
Okay.
Just surrender to Krishna. The whole thing is when you surrender to Krishna's message, you don't have to physically put something in your mind other than Krishna consciousness. That's why this movement is called this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. If we're Krishna conscious, if we're always churning these instructions in our mind 24 hours a day, always chanting the holy name 24 hours a day, then we can't help but do everything for Krishna. And in other words, it's putting Krishna in the center of our lives instead of ourselves and all our problems in the center of our life. And then all our problems fade away, because then Krishna takes it. You let go, let God. Krishna takes control of everything, and you're no longer in anxiety because you no longer think you're the doer. We're not the doer anyway. Krishna is the ultimate doer. Man proposes, but God disposes. So we have to act like it depends on us. Everything will be done, but we know that everything it depends on Krishna. Krishna is the final executor, and if he's pleased, he'll help us with our activities. And that is the greatest bliss, because then we know that if Krishna is helping us, you'll know that if Krishna is helping you, you'll feel so much lighter. You'll think, oh, I had so many burdens in my life before. But when I release my burden, when I actually let go and let God, then it becomes so much easier, and you're no longer in anxiety because you don't think you're the controller. You don't think you're the doer anymore. We're not the doer. Krishna is the doer of everything. And if we let him, just, Krishna says, just surrender to me and I'll protect you from all reactions, and I'll make it. It says that this material world has so many problems, like an ocean of problems. But if we surrender to Krishna, that ocean of material existence, all the problems that we have in this world, with our family, with our society, with everything, it becomes that entire ocean of misery becomes reduced down to the size of the water that is contained in the hoofprint of a calf, and we can just step right over it. So that's what it means to surrender. If then all of our problems go away. I mean, there'll always be problems, but it becomes a burden of love. It's a labor of love when we're actually working for Krishna, and we're no longer selfishly working. The whole thing is to surrender, and when we surrender, then it becomes a burden for Krishna's sake, and no longer for our own selfish ends, our own program, our own agenda. Does that explain a little?
Yes, very well. Thank you for that, Shik.
Sorry, I'm having my neighbors, they're fighting across so if I read, if they're getting loud, sorry.
That's all right. You live in a pretty bad neighborhood. Zoe, where do you live? Swissvale?
Yes, I'm in Swissvale.
Yeah, you don't live in the best neighborhood either, but it's like there's
Hey,
so
I'm
many
trying
bad
to make
neighborhoods in
things
this
better.
city.
I was going to go to a city council meeting, but I found out I had to sign up. I'm trying to bring a music festival here. Don't
That'd be
knock it.
Wow. You could play the cello. Is that a cello, or is that a viola?
Cello.
That's a cello.
Yep.
Okay. I thought a cello was a little bigger. That's like a medium size instrument, isn't it? Or no? I don't know. I don't know my instruments.
Yeah, it's bass. You're thinking of the bass, I think.
Yeah,
Stand up.
bass.
Big one.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway. All right. Well, now to the next one. We've got less than 10 minutes left, so we'll continue here. Munya sadhu prishtoham bhavadbir lokamangalam yat krita krishna samprashno yenatmasa prasiditi. Synonyms. Munya, O sages, sadhu. This is relevant. Prishta, question aham, myself, bhavadbi, by all of you, loka, the world, mangalam, welfare, yet because krita made Krishna, personality of Godhead, samprashna, relevant question, yena, by which atma, self, supersedity, completely pleased. Translation. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna, and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. Go ahead, Al.
Since it has been stated there herein before that the Bhagavatam, the absolute truth, is to be known, the questions of the sages of the Naim Sarana are proper, and just because they pertain to Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead says that in all Vedas there is nothing but the urge for searching after him, Lord Krishna. Thus the questions to pertain to Krishna are the sum and substance of all the Vedic inquiries.
Go ahead, Rizzo.
Sorry. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds and the nest become busy with questions and answers. And in the evening, also, the same birds come back and again become busy with questions and answers. The human being, unless he is fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers, and so are the lawyers in the court and the students in the schools and colleges. The legislators and the parliament are also busy with questions and answers, and the politicians and the press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Although they go on making such questions and answers for their whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna.
Wow. Go ahead, Alan, why don't you read the last one?
Krishna is our intimate master, friend, father, or son, an object of conjugal love. Forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things but Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So if we have to complete satisfaction, we must take the questions and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers, because the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna. We can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing the transcendental literature. One should learn the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and make an all-round solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, religious matters. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things.
Yeah, I mean, how can you be satisfied just by talking and, getting question and answer? It's just endless, that Prabhupada says that the material world is endlessly mutable. In other words, there's so many things that are just not related to Krishna, but we keep on talking about them, like in the early 2000s, I was upset about the political situation in this country. I became kind of a political activist because I was completely an illusion. And so I became a political activist. I was like I was the coordinator for the MoveOn.org Council of Greater Pittsburgh. And I would sometimes listen to questions and answers posed by the pundits on TV. I would watch these political talk shows, and they were arguing and going back and forth and, answering questions and posing questions and giving answers. And it was very unsatisfying because they're always fighting with me amongst themselves. And then I was complaining to my wife. I said, "Hey, why don't these guys talk about Krishna?" And she started laughing at me. And because, they're not going to talk about Krishna. They never talk about Krishna. They'll find everything else besides Krishna to talk about. But Krishna is the only thing to talk about. It's the only worthy thing to talk about. Everything else is complete nonsense, because Krishna is everything. And when you see everything from his point of view, then everything makes sense. Otherwise, it's just like, examining, like you want to criticize somebody's qualities, or this political party, or that agency, or this war, or that policy. It's just like, like comparing wet stool and dry stool. If you have wet stool, it's like really, you think, oh, that's wet, and then you turn the other one is dry, and that's dry stool, but it's still stool. It's all stool. And so what's the use of examining all these things? It's just stool. So, but the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is compared to, the crows and that like the garbage. This is later on in this chapter, actually. It compares the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam to, there's different kinds of birds. Different birds flock together. You know, birds of a feather flock together. Now the crows, they like the garbage heaps and they like to pick through the garbage. But, you know, and all these other literatures and all these other topics are compared to garbage. But the swans, they like the crystal clear lakes, and they like to, you know, entangle themselves in the lotus stems coming from the swans are also have the ability, that's why they're called paramahansas. The highest sages are able to extract the nectar, like a swan is able to actually take a mixture of milk and water and just suck out the milk and leave the water. So that's what a sage can do. And so the Bhagavatam is considered the cream of Vedic knowledge. So we can taste the cream of that knowledge and then just leave all the rest of this garbage to the crows. That's the analogy that was indicated in this. We got about less than 3 minutes left. Is there any questions that anybody might have about these first 5 verses?
So what I'm taking from it is, you know, you have to make a conscious choice of what it's going to be about to get away, to unburden oneself from the materialistic lifestyle, correct?
Yeah, the choice is either you surrender to Maya, you surrender to Krishna, either one. You either surrender to the material energy, our own personal agenda, or we surrender to Krishna's agenda. There's no two ways. There's either broad is the way to hell and narrow is the path to the spiritual world. So there's 2 paths. One leads to emancipation and freedom from all anxiety, and the other path leads to our further entanglement in the material world. So we have to choose who we serve. You know, we have to serve God or Mammon. Which one do you choose? So we have to know God before we serve him, and then we know him by surrendering to his instructions in the Bhagavatam and chanting his name and serving his devotees and engaging in devotional service. So that's how we choose.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, how you said that, it's not really a question. I just wanted to say, like, for all the classes, and even today, well, today was kind of hard because of my dumb neighbors across the street, but I'm not worried about them. But yeah, it was a little hard one because I couldn't really hear anything while I was on mute. But he's upset because because of the things that are going on in the street, because he owns a couple houses other than mine. And he says, well, I'm not happy that I'm paying rent and I'm cutting the grass and I'm Christian and I'm going to go and say something. And then I was like, Martin, I says, what does you being Christian have to really do with anything with what the landlord, not what's going on here and everything? You're just kind of picking a fight. He's like, well, I'm Christian and I believe that I need to say, like, he said something like, I need to say something. And I remember Prabhupada says you people need to stop doing that, because like, that's kind of, I even try to tell him, I'm like, dude, you're going to kind of backfire because you keep labeling yourself as a Christian.
It becomes a righteous indignation. Anyway, we're less than a minute left here. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and especially you.
Thanks for sharing, Alan.
Yeah.
All right, Krishna, I hope your neighbors calm down.
Yeah, they're all nuts. Including that. See, they're flipping out now.
Earplugs, that's what you need to do. That's what I wore last night because of the fireworks.
I gotta go. I'll talk to you next time.
Talk to you later. Oh.
Thanks, Shik. Thanks.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.